Ski School is a 1990 comedy from director Damian Lee. The movie opens exactly the way you would expect. Butts! Lots and lots of butts! While all this skiing's going on, Dave Marshak and his crew are having a kegger. This whole movie is going to be neon fart jokes and genuinely impressive skiing. You know what? I'm okay with all of this. When you see the cover for a movie called Ski School, that's exactly what you should be expecting. The announcer tells the audience about the evil antagonist of the film, Reed. This almost looks like a Hallmark Christmas movie. Oh, never mind. Reed's angry his girlfriend Paulette is at the party. Dave and his buddy Fitzgerald run the Section 8 ski group, which is comprised of drinking, partying, and sometimes skiing. Reed tells him he's going to do whatever it takes to remove them this year. It's the annual skiing pageant week at Whistler Mountain. That brings in skiers from all over to show their skills.
Slalom, downhill, and freestyle. Skiing is what it's all about.
At a skiing competition? This kind of movie wouldn't be complete without a genuine Playboy playmate. John Rowland's distracted by the lovely Victoria and bumps into Laurie. Hi, I'm John. I'll be your love interest for the duration of the film. John tries to enroll in the all-star ski school, but they mock him and ship him off to Section 8, which I'm sure won't come back to bite them in the ass later. Hey, wait, isn't that Boner from Growing Pains? I guess not. John makes his way to Section 8, or Section Infinity, where they're doing this old gag.
Oh, what a rogue and peasant slave am I.
So it seems the structure of this is going to be plot, silly moment, or nudity, skiing, repeat. John finally gets to show off his skills, and what do you know, he's incredible. I'm starting to think this movie has been sponsored by Labatt's. Reed does the downhill in record time, but then John comes in very close. They celebrate with beer. Reed, of course, isn't happy with this. Over in the exercise room, Paulette is somehow trapped.
Move your knees, let's go. Help, guys.
Can't she just drop them? Was her character originally blonde? Fitz is passing by, and since no one is helping, he decides to sexually harass her.
Thanks.
Hey, did you know you have really big muscles?
In the 90s, this wasn't a bad thing. This was called wooing. Okay, maybe not this part.
Okay, thanks.
Oh, I did not mean to do that. No.
I think this was all just for this camera angle. Reed hears Paulette laughing and sees Fitz. Fitz tries to joke his way out, but Reed's gang removes him. Although Paulette is now intrigued. Back at Section 8.
I hope I don't have to be the one to tell you this, but ski school is not about learning how to ski.
Dave's discussing what they're going to do this evening.
How many for chocolate hot tubs?
What the hell is Fitz doing? Oh, thank God it's just beer and not mixing macaroni. That night they go to the party, only it's super lame. Why is Fitz wearing his mom's sweatshirt? The gang infiltrates the party. Fitz uses a move that only works in the movies.
Do you have the time?
Time? Of course. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. No. I'm just gonna run upstairs and change it. It's okay.
No, Fitz. No.
Change? What a good idea.
Ed breaks into the control room to make this party hype. John sees Laurie being hit on by the lame squad, so he goes in to rescue her. Paulette's getting changed and no, Fitz. Bad. Paulette's on the phone telling her friend she's starting to like this guy. Somehow I think that would change if she looked over and saw this. Laurie meets up with John. They go into the linen room, which just so happens to have bottles of champagne. Reed's mad that people are having fun, so he has Ed thrown out. This can mean only one thing.
Payback. Yes, I think so.
Just then, the guys break up the love fest. They then set up this elaborate scheme to get back at Reed's gang. Why is the camera equipment also in the linen closet? Or should I say, plot convenience closet? They send Laurie in to lure the two guys into a trap. Derek is super excited about sex.
Room 220, where I'm gonna do you.
Reed's showing the guests a film about himself. Just then, Ed cuts the feed and the video goes to Derek and Eric's nighttime adventures. How did they edit VHS in like 5 minutes? The gang leaves victorious. They just have beer on them all the time, don't they? Laurie and John go back to a room for shenanigans.
There's no more champagne.
I'm not drunk enough to do this yet. They both seem slightly confused.
What's happening?
I guess the alcohol finally kicks in because it's lovin' time. Reed's talking to the owner of the ski resort. He tells him he has to find a way to get rid of Section 8. Reed goes to talk to the Section 8 guys, but they can't hear him on account of being hungover with random half-dressed women. Fitz apparently was visited by Mr. Hanky. Day 2 of the qualifier races. Oops. Dave and Fitz are playing with army men when Godzilla shows up to destroy them all. Then the most bizarre, out-of-place transition. They're playing and being stupid, and then because the script demands it, they have to immediately get serious. They decide the best way to win the mountain is with subliminal messages. So they plant messages in John's head, which makes him ski better than before. Wait a minute, isn't this still day 2? How do they plant the messages if they just came up with the idea this morning? Anyway, they ski supremely well and move up to 4th place in the competition. The guys plant a subliminal message into Ed to get him to concentrate on skiing instead of sex. Did they edit this out of order? They're all wearing what they had on yesterday. Dave and Fitz stop in the coldest sauna ever. If this was a real sauna, wouldn't her hair be wet? Fitz then gives them a history lesson about the lambada, which, for those of you who don't know, was kind of a popular thing circa 1990. It's one of those weird dance crazes that captivated the world for 5 minutes like the river dance or the Macarena. This could be the biggest stoner comedy ever made that doesn't include weed. Is this really the safest place to do the lambada?
Like a sack full of axe handles.
What? Sack full of axe handles? Is that like bag full of antlers? Isn't that supposed to be an insult? Dave makes an oopsie.
Oh Christ, I've come.
So he washes off in the hot tub. Why did they need to ADR this in?
Good book.
Thanks to John, Section 8 makes it up to 2nd place. This brings him to the attention of Victoria. John looks about as confused as I'd probably be. This girl again. Really pushing the sexy walk and resting bitch face. The movie needed some filler, so Dave's talking to Paulette about nonsense. Why is Charlie Spradling mouthing his lines?
And she was really...
Then she tries to make the word wigwam sexy.
Was it something about your wigwam?
A fair effort. Fitz then gets introduced to Paulette, and are they taking the piss or did they really edit this out of order? Ed hands out snowballs. John's having coffee when Victoria shows up wearing an airbag. This makes Lori very jealous. John is confused. So the inevitable snowball fight breaks out. Later that evening, Paulette's in the hot tub and Fitz is spying on her. You know, she showed interest. You probably could join her instead of leaving tapioca stains on the roof. Paulette senses she's being spied on, so she puts on a show for the perv. Man, it was a different world back then. Now it's time for more random stuff theater.
And now for another game of Whose Underwear Is It? With your host, it's Fitz.
The gang's doing stupid things when the owner of the resort shows up. He informs them that this time they've gone too far. For what exactly? The snowball fight? Really? That's what pushed things over the edge. They decide the best thing to do is party. John goes to see Victoria, who is immediately making her intentions clear. Don't mind me, I'm just over here making the bed. She lets him know she's rich.
What exactly do you do?
Oh, I like to spend money.
Instead of picking up on her obvious cues, John asks her to go to the party. Back at said party, they switch on the black lights, and with the amount of body fluids here, this place lights up like Chernobyl. Victoria makes it abundantly clear that she does not want to go to the party. John then derps his way into sex. Back at the party, they invade Reed's office, which is also the gym. And now a brief moment from our sponsor, Labatt's Blue. The next day, Dave got some. Go team! Reed is very upset at the not-so-bad job they did to his office. Seriously, this is maybe like 5-10 minutes of cleanup. Reed decides it's time for revenge, so his boys are gonna cheat until Section 8 gets pushed to the bottom of the roster. Okay, how does this not get the other team disqualified? I mean, they aren't even trying to hide it. Oh, right, wrong kind of movie. So, Section 8 is in 8th place. John sees Lori, who's mad about Victoria. How does she know they had awkward sex? Back at Section 8, it looks like the Bacardi sponsorship check cleared. So the team is now in last place. John suggests they take it easy tonight instead of partying. Nah! Dave uses his subliminal power to get Lori to forgive John. Johnny goes to apologize and she's presenting? That's quite a thing to walk into. I guess this means all's forgiven. Who plays Solo Twister? And they jump into bed and hold on! That's the dress she was wearing the other night. See? Here, white shirt. 10 seconds later, blue dress. Okay, now no dress. The guys have a mandatory meeting with the owner of the ski school. He tells them they're all disqualified from the event. Reused footage of Ava Fabian from the beginning of the movie. The guys try to devise a plan to get back into the competition. Section 8 crashes the competition in a way straight out of an 80s beer commercial. Those boxes are empty. Dave asks the crowd who demands they let Section 8 back in the competition. Rather than cause a riot, they allow him to compete. Now, naturally, Section 8 starts dominating each event. In order to win against Reed, Dave had to acquire these special helmets. They also cheat. A lot. There hasn't been any of this in a while. They really wanted this line to be a thing.
In order to be the best, you must lose your mind.
Show Johnny that you still love him, even though he's losing his mind.
If you want to be the best, you must lose your mind.
Now it all comes down to John. He sets a new record, which now ties them with Section 1. Reed challenges them to a final duel, and whoever loses has to leave the mountain forever. So what's it gonna be? Chinese downhill? Nope, they're gonna ski the dome. They tell him no matter what he does, to not take the right slope or he'll go right off the impossible cliff jump. Which means we all know exactly where he's going. They race down the mountain and Reed's winning, so Johnny heads off the cliff. He makes the jump and wins the race. Johnny wins the race, gets the girl, and Reed leaves in disgrace. Victoria announces she bought the resort and rebranded it to Party Mountain. She then moves in on Dave. The winners then pair off for sex.
Welcome to my kingdom.
The movie was shot mostly at Whistler Mountain in Whistler, BC, Canada, and Vancouver. Director Damian Lee also directed the Sven Ole Thorsen Jesse Ventura classic, Abraxas, Guardian of the Universe. Dean Cameron played Dave Marshak. He used to have a blog where he wrote entries about All's old movies. For Ski School, he said, "After Men at Work and Rockula did nothing and the deal at Paramount went nowhere, I was really bummed. I had a lousy attitude about the entertainment industry and couldn't get a gig to save my life. To top it all off, my relationship with my girlfriend at the time was dying a miserable death. Bad, bad, bad times. This offer came along and they were paying some pretty good coin and I got to get out of town for a few weeks. There was an actual screenplay that had some funny stuff in it, but seemed really slapped together. Upon arriving in Vancouver, BC, I learned that the producers had basically sold the title Ski School and had about 3 months to deliver a movie. The script was written rather quickly and boom, we were in Vancouver making a movie. The original script focused a lot more on the romance of the leads. I had worked with Patrick Laburto a couple of times, so we had lots of fun, and we both instantly bonded with Stuart Franklin. We realized we were making a piece of crap and decided to just have fun. After about a week, one of the producers and the writer had us up to his room to come up with funny scenes. Helium Theater, Birth of the Lambada, Subliminal Hypnosis, Godzilla, Whose Underwear Is This? Are just some of the comic gems that were mine that fateful Canadian night, I tell you. After principal photography was shot, they put the movie together in a very rough assembly, wrote another script to make the stuff kinda sorta make sense, and then did some more shooting in LA almost a year later. This was the first movie that I thought no one would ever see, which ended up on a virtual loop on cable. All that being said, it was a really fun time, and my relationship with Stuart Franklin evolved into us getting our own TV show later that year. As Cameron said, he had a lot of great chemistry with actor Stuart Fratkin, which led to the duo landing the short-lived TV series They Came From Outer Space. Cameron returned to Ski School in 1994 with Ski School 2, which unfortunately was not as much fun to make as the first. Which is weird because if you've ever seen Ski School 2, it seems like everyone's having a really good time. I guess the actors are better than they get credit for. As of currently, there's no Ski School 3. Dean Cameron continues to act as well as do voiceover work, write, produce, and direct. He even performed the music for Rockula in 1990. He also co-wrote the songs Girl from Oklahoma and Supersonic Sex Machine for the band Steel Panther. In the film, Cameron's name was originally Dave Marshall, The director didn't like it, so after filming, they went back in and ADR'd in Marshak, which is why later you see Dave Marshall on the board. Also, as Cameron mentioned, they wrote and directed the film in 2 chunks, about a year apart, which explains why the film seems oddly out of order. Ski School is exactly the kind of dumb film I loved watching back then, and still love watching now. Ski School 1 and 2 were constantly on cable back in the 90s. I've seen them both many times. Sure, they might not have the best jokes, or make consistent sense, but they do have plenty of references that didn't live past 1991. For some reason, there was a bunch of these Animal House on Skis movies back in the 80s and 90s. Hot Dog the Movie, Ski Patrol, and the Ski School movies, to name a few. Most likely as a way to counter all these beach teen sex comedies. Okay, so the scenes of Fitz spying on Paulette aged about as fine as milk, but I always look at films from the perspective of the time when they were made. It was just a different time, that's all. These sort of things, as weird as they seem now, were kind of normal back then. Think of what happened in Revenge of the Nerds. I know people in real life who met in similarly weird ways. Although if a couple got together because a guy was spying on a girl changing, they might want to tell their kids a different story about how they met.
You may be able to disqualify us, but you cannot stop us from doing the lambada.
That's the forbidden dance.